friends, today I will be reading Shades of Life by Shubhada Chaube. So let's begin with the story. Sitting in my comfy chair, I was letting cold breeze kiss my chubby cheeks as I inhaled them. My daughter always loves at my habit of sitting with windows open, letting the pure air in. I am a single mother and I was raised by a very practical father who only bothered about society. And that's the reason why I also never cared about anything going on. And from there it all started. My eyes were filled with tears as my daughter tapped my shoulder, pulling me out from the dark, dense night again. Whenever she asked me about it, I lied or changed the subject, not because I don't want to talk about it, but because I don't want her to know how this bad society is. This is my way of protecting her. I don't want her to know what her father is like. That's why, after these incidents, I moved away from that hell to Avalon, undiscovered heaven of the earth, Uttarakhand, where I raised my daughter. While sitting next to the window, I observed things happening here. One side of me always wanted to keep everything in check. I may sound nuts, but after what I faced, I just wanted to protect my daughter. My daughter again tapped me and started showing her agony towards my love with this chair and the window. It was my favorite spot. I don't know why. I wished her all the best and we both went to the temple to pray. While returning, she insisted on dropping me home. School was near our home and we both loved walking. That's why we never thought of buying a scooty. No matter what people call sons, daughters are real gem. My daughter knew about our condition and she never wished anything from me. Today, she was about to step on my shoes. Yes, the school she is joining is the place which allowed me to teach when I was even unaware of subjects that exist in primary and middle school. I wanted a new life, so I burnt down all the ropes connecting me with the past and moved on. After I came here, this school gave me home, hope, and support I needed. They glued my broken pieces and even took care of my daughter when I was forced to work so she could eat. Things were never like that. Never. My father was among the richest people present in the city, but still I had to walk through the roads filled with thorns and hungry wolves. I was thinking about the initial days when I realized we were close to our home sweet home. I wrapped my fingers on my daughter's arm and started adoring her. We were walking down when suddenly a biker came and pulled my daughter's dupatta from her arm. That draped piece of cloth teared a little, and the rage filled in my eyes started filling in my body. I stepped ahead to do something, anything, when he accelerated and ran away. Mama, let him go. He's lucky from my college and he's doing this kind of stuff since forever. I was shattered when my daughter's lip synced to deliver this. Leave it and forever are the terms which were bugging my head. The situation I ran from is everywhere. The test I gave was useless. She dropped me home, told me to take care of myself, and left for school. I blessed her and ran towards my room. My chair was still lying next to my favorite window, but I wanted a place to hide my inner fear. As I entered my room, I took my pillow, placed my head, and cried for hours. History repeats, they say. If this is the truth, then I never want my history to get repeated. Never ever. It was night of 29th October 96 when I was returning from my workplace. I was writing a novel and I always used to go to a nearby cafe to get things done quickly. That day, I changed my cafe as I was getting bored of the usual one. I was always a free bird, and when my mother died, I faced her death so well that my father declared me a miracle baby. We three were perfect, and after my mom, dad, and I managed everything well. She was suffering from a disease and she was a warrior. She stood in the battlefield till her last breath. But anyway, I cleared my head and began reminiscing again. Black is not just a color, it is an emotion, they say. If it's true, then I never want anyone to say it's true color because black stands for bad. That day, it was 1 a.m. when I realized it's late and hurried home. I never enjoy driving, so I always book cabs or call dad from the landline of the cafe. I usually go to, but it was late and no cabs were available. So I thought of walking to the main road and then waiting for the cab as the road where the cafe stands was stoned and silence. And that silence was deafening. It was filled with sobs and pain. I felt that. I increased my pace as the darkness was driving me crazy. My brain suddenly started calculating possibilities of a man or men coming, and my defense moved to tackle the situation. I checked my shoelaces being tied properly, not for the sixth time, as my move was to attack the person with my blue ball pen and then run screaming to get in everyone's notice. I even considered going back to that cafe again, but it was a bad move as that cafe also gave me a big no as an answer when I asked my conscience about it. I always relied on my conscience, but now nothing was working as the darkness kept on increasing as I moved ahead. Despite street lights glowing like stars, I was afraid. I reached a road where vehicles can be seen, but the one driving it looked like some old fashioned murderer. Everything was going against my plan, and no landlines were there either. I wanted to cry my eyes out. I started losing my independent girl image and shivered as pearls dropped from my eyes. I somehow convinced myself and started walking again. As I rushed ahead, I saw my schoolmate coming. He was with his friends Ajit and Anand. We all studied in the same school, and the feeling I got after meeting them was irreplaceable. I gave Ahan a tight hug as he stopped the jeep and ran towards me. He sensed the situation and offered me his help. Suddenly, the light seemed brighter and the sky brightest. I forgot about everything and quickly nodded a yes. I sat in his jeep next to Ajit, and as I looked at him, I remembered all the heinous things they did back then. But right now, I just wanted to go home, so I pushed those feelings and started observing the path. It was not my usual one. As I coined this observation of mine, the boys started laughing. Anand too said it, but they silenced him by giving a look. I have seen it before, and my conscience felt what situation I trapped myself in. I asked Ahan to leave me here as I suddenly felt like walking and gave infinite reasons to him, but he was adamant about his decision. Suddenly, we were on a highway, and Anand started talking about something when I felt something wrong can happen and started screaming. It was a busy road, and people started noticing me. It was about when Ahan turned the vehicle to a narrow road, and Ajit held me so tightly that I couldn't move. Anand was still arguing when they pointed something at him, and he stopped protesting. In fact, he was carried away and he started giving them ideas about what they can do with me. The agony inside me blasted like a volcano carrying molten in them, and I started biting Ajit's hand when Ahan stopped the jeep and they threw me away. After that, the boys did things which I never want to remember. Never. After they were done with me, they left me rotting on that grass in abundant land away from the city and escaped. I don't remember much about it. Then, as I was lying unconscious on the floor, then a villager discovered me. I opened my eyes in the hospital, and the first thing I saw was my father wrapping his arms around Ahan as he stood in front of me with flowers in his hand. When the doctors examined me, the only trace they found was of Ahan, and I was in ICU for a week. Ahan's father was head of the hospital, and he got that idea of what happened way before anyone else. Doctors gave up on me as no medicines were enough to heal the wounds my body carried. Still, Ahan's father kept working. Maybe his will to save his son was dominant in his case, or whatever it is, the fragrance of the room was acting like a poisonous gas to me, and my father holding the person who raped me was making me feel guilty of opening my eyes. I wanted my life to end, as the drought which occurred in my life's land made my dreamland barren, and I knew I would never be able to move on or let it all go. Teardrops felt like a waterfall when they escaped my eyes. I raised my hands towards my father, and within seconds he held them. I told him about what Ahan did, what crime he and his friends committed, and how it all happened, but the words he uttered were more painful among them all. He said, I know what Ahan did, and he is sorry for everything. He was with you since that morning you were brought into this hospital. Believe it or not, he loves you so much, and the care I saw in his eyes are real. When he got to know about the baby, The sudden transition I saw from a boy to a man made me applaud him. He wants to marry you, my little girl. Get well soon. We have tons of preparations to do. And he ended his monologue with, I'm your father, and I know what is good for you. I have always protected you, and I will. I was stunned. Either my heart started skipping beats, or the air in the room extinguished. The colors of my life started fading away. The man I loved wanted me to marry the person who did such things only to protect his so called image. I was unable to react. My brain went numb, my feet felt colder, and my heart, it was filled with grief. I felt like I am attending my own funeral where everyone is saying good things to me, but I am unable to reciprocate. I just sat in my bed with people praising and saying good things about me. I was in pieces. I wanted to cry louder, and I was trying to, but no one noticed it. Not even my father? As I uttered the word, Father, I noticed the baby my womb carried. A baby? I punched my belly a few times. Still, no one noticed, as they were busy in planning the marriage of some girl who died weeks ago. Yes, died, and that too brain dead, because my brain was not working anymore. The next thing I remember is waking up in the morning. It was early morning when the hands of the clock met. I decided what I must do. I asked my nurse to allow me to take a walk and that I wanted to be alone. And then I ran from the hospital. I reached my home and I knew my father must be sleeping. So I rushed to my room and packed my bag, collected all the money I saved for some girly stuff which I am unable to recall, and ran. Ran for my life, and I ended up here. And after a month of living away from the society, which never felt a thing about the incidents, I started developing feelings for the child. In the rush of leaving and starting a new life, I almost forgot about the sleeping baby in my womb. Whatever society says, the baby I carried was mine, and that child had nothing to do with all the things that happened. When little Avni laid in my arms, I promised her to give every little pleasure that exists. But now, when I heard about her classmate's luck, I started seeing Ahan in him. Covering your past does not allow the future to change, and I realized what I did was wrong. Instead of teaching my daughter to be a warrior like her mother or grandmother, I taught her to let things go or not to pay attention to it. I felt 21 years ago was back in action, and I wanted to tell her the deepest secret I hid inside the hidden chambers of my heart. I heard the bell ringing. It must be her, my heart shouted, and I ran opening the door when I noticed my chair. Our window faced roads which entered the town we live in. I was so busy in protecting my daughter that I never bothered to show her the mirror of this society, the mirror my father showed me. My bubble shaped mirror which Ahan burst, the mirror we all must be aware of. As I opened the door, her eyes shone bright like the color of the night sky. I gave her a tight hug, held her hands, and started narrating her story, the story of my life. So friends, this is the end of the story. Please stay tuned for another story.